Hi Wendy. So just keep an eye on this kind of front on position to start off with. So obviously as you move away here, you can see this is the first one that you hit. You can see that there's a lot of shift laterally to the right with your pelvis. So this little yellow dot dictates the centre of your pelvis. You can see there's a lot of lateral shift with that to the right. And obviously all the pressure then you can see if you concentrate on your right foot, you can see this very much goes into the outside of your right foot. Okay, and then obviously because the pelvis shifts so much this way, something then has got to go in the other direction for you to maintain your balance. And at the top of the swing you can see you get a very tilted spine angle away, kind of towards the target, you would say, and from here it's extremely difficult to control the low point in your swing, where the golf club bottoms out, and that's why you would get these sorts of shots where you're going to hit the ground before the ball, or the club doesn't bottom out and you catch the top of the ball. So if you go to the swing on the right side now, so you can see that your pressure very much stays a lot more planted into the inside of your right foot, and at the top of the swing here there's nowhere near as much tilt in your spine, and the feeling for you is very much like the pelvis, the centre of the pelvis here actually goes closer to the target in your backswing, and you can see quite clearly this first line here was where your pelvis was at address. So it has moved laterally to the right, and it's still probably just a little bit too much for me, but the more you can kind of feel the opposite of these two on the left hand side. So the bottom arrow dictates the direction that your hips travel, and the up arrow, this one here, shows that your spine is going to tilt back in the opposite direction to try and keep your balance. So it's very much feeling the opposite. So your hips, oops, don't know where that came from, your hips very much feel like they're going in this direction, and then what that should lead to is your spine going in the opposite direction. So you start to get a feeling that your spine is almost tilted this way, not obviously the opposite, which is that way. But you can see these two are just dramatically different there. Really good stuff. So if we then go to some down the line ones, which I will just bring in. So I think this one here was, this was your first swing that you did on the left hand side. Let me just see if I've got an iron with you. Have a quick look at this one. Is it the one I want to use? Yes. No, sorry. Okay, so we didn't really talk too much about your arms or rotating upper body or anything like that. We really just talked about your hips. So you can see with your first swing, initial setup is good. Position up to the next position, up to position number 2 is brilliant. So here you would get quite sort of steep with this left arm. It get quite high. The club overswung quite a lot, but again, a lot of it is because the right hip laterally slided so much you couldn't really create any depth or get the hands almost feeling a little bit more behind your body or behind your shoulder. So if you look at this one here, this is a swing towards the end, you can see how your arms now are nicely placed just slightly behind that right shoulder, whereas here they very much kind of sit just slightly on top, which for you, everyone's a little bit different. This one on the right is much better. You can start to see things like there's a little bit of space here, or a little bit of daylight between your legs, which shows that the pelvis has got a lot more rotation as opposed to the slide. So on the way down, as you would move now, the shaft would get very steep and your arms would move kind of a long way out. Club face is quite open, and from here just very difficult to gain a strike from that position. Path was quite a long way to the left, so you were then in a position here now where you almost had to square the club face up. So you would get sort of pulls and you lose the ball left, but you would also lose it to the right if you didn't square it up enough. And you can see you just very much here with that left arm almost because the path is so left foot. That's why you get this movement with your left arm here. So the one on the right now, as we move it down, and this still needs a lot more work, but when the left arm is parallel to the ground here versus the one on this side, you can see the difference of where the shaft is. It's just totally different. So you retain a lot more of the angles in your wrists, because you're not trying to kind of save the shot, so to speak. But I won't go into too much detail because I know that's not how you work. But if you look at when the lead arm's parallel to the ground, you very much got the hands opposite the chest, and the angle of the shaft pointing outside of the ball, which is good. As you come into the one where the shaft is parallel to the ground versus the new one, you can see it's in a totally different position from here. So there's far less you need to do in terms of manipulating any form of face, because the direction that you're swinging the club is a lot better. Again, you hit this one quite well out the middle, and away we go. And then what you should start to see is you don't really need to use that left arm as much as you did, because the path that you're swinging on is much more neutral. You can see here, again, you struggle a bit with the strike there, off the toe. But again, you're going to get that because you're swinging the club so far out and away and in front of your body. So if you look at the distance between hands and arms, hips and arms, or hips and hands, you could say. You don't even need me to draw the line in because it's dramatically different. Really good, and I think it's just more a case now of kind of keeping you in that slot. You just tend to lose that slot as you kind of drift away, and it's just getting you back to it, and then you drift away and then get back to it. But trying to keep in mind that I didn't put any sorts of sticks or anything like this here like I normally do. All we got you to do is use your pelvis correctly, and that brought your arms into a much better position from where you were. So hopefully that makes sense. Absolutely. Any questions for Wendy, just let me know.